Yeah. As I like to say, when the heat comes, it comes hot, right? Like he's feeling it, and Spotify's feeling it. And let me, can I say this? I've been thinking about Joe Rogan overly too much for the last couple of years, but I want to say this. This is protest, right? What all these artists are doing. What, but by the way, it's not just music artists. A lot of podcasts, Brene Brown, NDRE. There's a lot of different podcasts who are saying, you know what, you're making money off us to pay this guy, and we're done, right? This is just a form of protest, and this is what I mean by hitting the streets and just using your voice. Like this matters. Protest matters. Being good trouble, as John Lewis said, matters. Right. So that's the first thing I want to say. Second thing is this isn't a freedom of speech thing. I'm just kind of Republicans like to do this, and they're very. I will say they're very good at throwing a bunch of things at the wall and making you confused. It's almost like a smoke screen how they do it, because they tear apart the issue and they throw a bunch of things at you that you have to start addressing. This is not a freedom of speech thing. Joe Rogan's not going to jail. Joe Rogan will not be fined. Joe Rogan doesn't have to pay any sort of consequence for saying what he feels. But that doesn't mean there isn't consequences to the things you say. You can't go and say bomb on an airplane. You can't go into a movie theater and yell a shooter, right? There's rules, right? The freedom of speech means the government's not coming after you for your opinion. It doesn't mean you can say whatever you want whenever you want, right? Joe Rogan got in trouble because he was spreading misinformation unchecked. There wasn't a disclaimer. There wasn't a guideline. He wasn't saying, here are two sides to the story. He wasn't saying, go ask your doctor. He was spreading misinformation, and that's what started this whole thing. By the way, I've been kind of not a fan of Joe Rogan for the longest time because he, to me, is not that smart, and he's kind of a bully. And the fact that he could fight, I think a lot of people don't look at him like a bully, but I just think he's kind of a bully, right? He's been saying the N word for a long time. That's not my conversation to have. I'll let you speak on that a little bit more. He's clearly transphobic. He's clearly said things that he thinks are jokes. But when you have a pattern of 65, 75, 100 times, 12 years of doing something, it no longer becomes a joke, right? You clearly feel a way about this. Calling inner city in Philly Planet of the Apes or Africa, like that stuff is not jokes to me. There's nothing funny about that. We've made mistakes. I've made mistakes in my past. Probably said jokes that I shouldn't have as a teenager and as a kid. But you're a 40-year-old man and you've been having this platform for 12 years. Don't tell me that you're just learning this now. You clearly think you could push the bounds, and now he's just feeling the consequences. I will make a prediction here. I wish I would have did this at our prediction show. I will make a prediction here. This is not the end. Spotify will get hotter, and I'm not saying they're going to kick him off, but I bet you I would put money on the fact that this will not be the end. I don't think we're even close to the end.
Right. And now I'm going to get to his apology about using the N word. And I'm going to say, it's a discussion you and I have had before. His excuse that, well, black folks use it and they can use it and he understands that, but he thought he was being in context. I I think there's something where I also want to just let you know, I don't think because you're not black you should not be able to have an opinion on this, but I think that it should be informed by the black experience, but it's also probably informed by your own experience. Have you ever noticed that, I'm not sure how many other groups you hang out with that you don't belong to? So for instance, I have a lot of Asian American friends, a lot of Jewish friends, a lot of gay friends, a lot of Italian friends, and I'm around them, and when I'm around them, they get very loose, and they say things about their own people. And I am very sensitive to the stuff that I'm in with these folks, and they're saying stuff that they're really relaxed and comfortable, but I probably don't have permission, nor do I expect to have permission to say it just because they say it themselves. Um, think about it. I have, you named the group, and I'm sure you've probably had this experience too. A lot of people, no matter what their group that they belong to, says things. I remember at one point, there's one community that I don't belong to, and I've done a lot of work with, and at one point, one of the leaders in the community said to me, John, you're an honorary, and said the community that it was, right? Insert name here. And I love that. But never once did I think, okay, now I've got the right. I can go ahead and say all the jokes and do all, and all. And so I have a hard time with Joe Rogan um, defense, because the N word is no different than any other pejorative that a community, and I'm sure in the Arab community, there's probably similar things, that there's pejoratives that are used against you guys, that you guys have gone ahead and repatriated, and you may use it amongst yourself in a trash talking way, and only, the same way that no one can talk about your brother and sister the way you can talk about your brother and sister, right? You can cuss your brother and sister out, but I step to them the wrong way, we're gonna have some problems, right? I have never understood why people don't have that same expectation or understanding with the N word. That's the thing that is so crazy to me, because I've been around people who belong to other groups who use those pejoratives that describe or use against their community, and they use it amongst themselves, and they use it in the exact same way I use the N word. And never once have I thought, oh, I should be able to use it. But why is it that black folks' use of the N word, even though probably our use of the N word is probably more apparent in popular culture than it is in, than some of the other pejoratives. But there's a lot of pejoratives I hear in, that are thrown around within many of the groups I don't belong to, but when I'm around them, and I have never once thought that I had any rights to it. I just don't understand that logic on Joe Rogan's side.